bit of fear, like myself, about getting into mentorship, because I think people think you do have to be an expert, but what does that actually really mean? And really all you need for mentoring is knowledge and experience. And it is still a two-way street. Even as a mentor, you're still learning as well. You learn from your mentee. And for business analysis, you might have thought something that's a skill or a role that you want to transition into. And you probably could get there on your own eventually, but having somebody like a mentor kind of accelerates that growth and propels you forward, and somebody holding you to account, so putting an action plan in and a bit of structure around those aspirations.
Welcome to the Inside Business Analysts podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Jacobs, and today I'm joined with Sinead Torley. Sinead, how are you doing today?
Good afternoon. I'm good, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, great to have you on the podcast today, Sinead. I think our conversation today is going to be really interesting. It's around mentoring and mentorship, specifically for business analysts, and I'm excited to jump into it. Sinead, you've got, I don't know, maybe 20 years of experience, if I remember correctly, in terms of in IT and projects and change and everything. So as far as mentorship is concerned, you're definitely somebody who comes with a very well proven track record, and somebody who mentees can learn a lot from you. I wanted to pick your brain around what your thoughts are on mentoring and, why we should consider mentorship in our career journeys and things of that nature. But before we jump into all the wonderful world of mentoring, can you give maybe a brief summary of kind of your career journey and your experience in business analysis?
Yes, certainly. Yes, as I said, about 20 years ago, I started a career, started off in testing, actually, user acceptance testing. But I've been in IT projects and business change environment for the last 20 years. The first 10 years was quite varied roles, doing business readiness testing and supporting projects. And then 10 years ago, I went into business analysis, where I actually found out I've been doing a lot of business analysis already, just not under the title. So the last 10 years, I started as a business analyst and then a senior business analyst. And then last year, I went into the world of consulting and joined as a principal consultant.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you made the shift from testing to business analysis, and that's a really interesting shift there. What inspired that shift?
Yes, I think obviously testing is kind of more at the end of requirements and testing those and validating it. But I just really think this analysis is about helping people or helping make improvements either to organisations or to processes. It's just something that I enjoy. I'm quite a people person. When I read the first job description for this BA advert, I was just like, oh yeah, I can do all of those things, and I enjoy those things. Got into my first job and then went from there on that career pathway and development into business analysis.
Love that. Yeah, no, it's a great perspective there around wanting to be involved early on and not kind of waiting for everything to be done, and then you test it at the end. So that's great there. And obviously through your journey and all the things that you've kind of accomplished, you've then eventually also became a business analyst mentor through the IIBA mentoring scheme. Can you touch on how that came about and what that entails in general?
Yeah, no problem. So I'm a member of the IIBA, so I'd heard about it from there, and at the time I was actually considering doing it as a mentee rather than a mentor, because I'd come to a bit of a crossroads in my own career, and I was thinking, maybe I'll seek some help from a mentor. But they were actually quite keen for some more mentors, and with my number of years experience, and kind of suggesting maybe I join as a mentor instead. So that was on last year's scheme. So I was a bit apprehensive at first, but I was like, no, I'll give it a go, and really found it really rewarding. And the fact that you've got lots of other mentees and mentors on the programme as well that you get to engage with. You're not on your own, and there's a lot of support out there, both from IIBA and the people that I joined as part of the scheme as well. And then after doing it last year, really keen to take part again and help somebody else this year.
Oh, I love that. Love that. Yeah, yeah. And I think, do you know what's so interesting about that point you made about you kind of applied as a mentee and then maybe pushed to be a mentor side of things. And, I'm curious to kind of, on that topic then, just really quickly, what would you say were the reasons why you felt you weren't ready to be a mentor yet, and you're kind of thinking, actually, let me apply as a mentee instead? I'm curious to know what was your thought
Yeah.
process like when you were thinking about those two options?
Yeah, and I think it's a good question. People have a bit of fear, like myself, about getting into mentorship, because I think people think you do have to be an expert, but what does that actually really mean? And really, all you need for mentoring is knowledge and experience. And like I said at the start, actually, I've had 20 years of it without. You don't sometimes think of it like that. And it is still a two-way street. Even as a mentor, you're still learning as well. You learn from your mentee, and you build on things like your active listening skills. So I thought I'm still going to develop myself from it personally and professionally, as well as helping somebody else. So it's a win-win, really.
Yeah, that's a very good point then. So, in your own words, then, why would you say business analysts should get a mentor in our careers?
Yeah, I think it's about accountability, and think of it a little bit like getting a personal trainer. You just think, oh, I've identified something that I want to improve, fitness or whatever it might be, and I'm going to go and seek somebody who, I think is a professional, and get them to help me on my journey. And I think it's quite similar for business analysis. You might have thought of something that's a skill or a role that you want to transition into, and you probably could get there on your own eventually, but having somebody like a mentor kind of accelerates that growth and propels you forward, and somebody holding you to account. So putting an action plan in, and a bit of structure around those aspirations, and kind of just nudging you along and keeping you on track. So I think it's having someone to hold you to account and see that you follow it through on what it is that you want to achieve.
Yeah, that, do you know what? I've never thought about it, that actually that accountability piece is quite strong and powerful, and obviously quite needed as well. And that's definitely a strong reason to consider mentorship for that purpose. And I love that, because I think and this is just my personal experience from people who reach out to me on LinkedIn directly, or just maybe even myself, the times I've considered getting a mentor, I'll be honest, it was usually because of one or two reasons. Number one, I'm trying to get my first business analyst job, and I kind of need a mentor or help to get that goal, or I'm trying to get another job in another organization, or get a job as a senior business analyst from a business analyst. But it's all linked to jobs as opposed to professional development and growth and accountability to my goals. And I think what you're touching on there is kind of like this bigger piece. That's just like, mentorship is not just about jobs. It's much more wider than that, really, in your career, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And I think, improve your network as well. Like I say, via your mentor might introduce you to some new people, or if you are part of something, the scheme, like the IIBA, like I said, I think there was 114 pairs of people on the scheme this year, and you've got a whole network of people that you can reach out to,
Wow.
and some new people that that you're going to meet. So I think even expanding your network as well is probably another reason to do it.
So what common problems then would you say that mentees typically, outside of the job one, because that's, everyone always does that one, but are there any other common problems that you see business analysts kind of saying, okay, I need a mentor, I need help with this from somebody like a mentor?
Yeah, I think sometimes it might be specific skills, but I've also had like people maybe just have a bit of imposter syndrome, or maybe a bit of low self-esteem, and actually they just want a bit of help identifying maybe what their strengths and weaknesses are, or maybe they just want to be a better BA, an all-rounded BA, and they want to help identify maybe which competencies could they improve on. And I think it's just somebody having a different perspective and outside looking in, helping them actually maybe just assess themselves a little bit as well, and help them see how they could improve on the competency or skills side. But yeah, it tends to be market on roles and transitioning into a new role, or they want to get a promotion or something like that. And career pathways is a common one. How do I get from here to there?
Yeah. But underneath that, we then have that mindset side of things, I guess, and kind of confidence in what you're doing, and also skill development, which is actually very key, isn't it, in our journey? And obviously, when you're applying for mentoring, there's number one, there's different people who say I'm a BA mentor. And then I'm assuming even with this pairing scheme, I don't exactly know how it works, if mentees have a say in who their mentor ends up being with the IIBA. But for people who are looking for a mentor, what would you say, like, how would you advise them to go about doing that? And how do you then actually make sure that you choose the right mentor? Because I guess you kind of have to align or make sure that what you're looking for, you're going to get. So how do you then how do you advise people to kind of make sure that their search for mentor goes well?
Yeah, no, good question. So just touch on the IIBA part first. So there is, like I say, a pairing process where both the mentee and mentor will say what it is that they want help with, or if it's a mentor, they can say what it is that they can offer up, and then things like what industry are you in and availability, and then there's some magical process in the background that helps do that matching. But outside of a scheme like that, say you wanted to find a mentor, maybe just reach out and find out what's already available within your organisation, because especially larger organisations often already offer that, or like again, if you're in part of a community of practice or a network, just say I'm looking for a mentor, and someone might reach up. But it is best to find somebody really, like you say, that's already willing and committed. So you're going to get that if they're already part of a scheme, because I think where it can go wrong sometimes is if that relationship just like fall down if you're not committed and you're not meeting regularly. At least if you're doing it as part of a scheme, that commitment's already there and the willingness is already there. But yeah, I think just finding somebody that's your values align, and maybe somebody that you're inspired by, maybe they're already where you want to be, or they've got some experience of something that you're interested in, or that's aligned to your vision. Just like doing some research, whether that's somebody or like you say, reaching out into your network to ask a mutual friend. But loads of, I think there's informal and formal mentoring opportunities out there. Like it could be a friend or a line manager, or like I say, there's lots of schemes as well outside of the IIBA as well.
Yeah, totally. And with that relationship between mentor and mentee, who, if any, between the two of them, who's the one, I guess, more leading that relationship, would you say? Who's the one driving it?
Really good question. I think that's where mentoring and coaching differs as well. So in a mentorship partnership, it should be the mentee that's leading, and they're driving it. So, what do you want to talk about? What do you ask them? What do you want to talk about today? And, what do you want to focus on? So it definitely should be the mentee. Whereas in a coaching situation, it would probably more be the coach that was leading. So yeah, no, definitely the mentee should be leading that relationship, and then you go off their cue of what it is that they want to talk about or focus on.
Right. So if I'm the kind of person that's like, I really want to help people and other BAs who are up and coming, but my idea of what that looks like is maybe me teaching them or directing them on what to do, then that's more coaching or even teacher trainer approach. But if my idea is I want to help people, but I'll help them as they need the help, and they will kind of ask me questions and I'll kind of guide them along to make a decision. but
Yeah.
they make the decision ultimately. They do what they do, and then that's then more mentoring is what I'm looking for. It sounds like.
Yeah, certainly. And I think a key part of your mentoring relationship is having that contracting, what kind of call it, up front. So agreeing that that's the way that it's going to work, and how do you want to be mentored? Do you want me to be challenging, or do you want me to be, putting some challenge for you? Do you want me to be giving you feedback and asking them, how do you want this to work? And do you mind if I give you, impart some of my experience, so personal experience. So it's definitely asking them how they want it to work. But obviously, you can, like you say, impart your knowledge and everything to help them and give your perspective and give them some guidance. But it's not a directive, and it's not a telling them what to do.
Yeah, and okay, that's really good, and that's really clear. So you did mention earlier about looking internally within the organization to see if there's any mentors available through there. But is there any benefits that you can touch on for somebody to consider getting a mentor outside of their work? For instance, going through this IIBA route as opposed to finding someone internally. I'm trying to think if there is any benefits in having a mentor who's not in your world and having that outsider's perspective, or maybe just keeping that mentee-mentor relationship not skewed with like colleague and manager sort of thing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think there'd be no kind of ego or hierarchy or grade involved if you do it outside of your organisation. It doesn't matter what position you are or etc. And like I say, I think you're going to gain that different perspective, especially for something like the IBA. The people that I've mentored in the past have been in a totally different industry and sector to what I've been in. So go back to what I said before. You're learning from them as well as it works both ways. Like I say, you can learn maybe different skills or how things are done differently in a different industry or organisation. So I think there's definitely benefits to doing that. Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's and I asked that question because I remember when I had a mentor who was in the team that I was working, or at least somewhat in the BA team, should I say, right? But still in the organization, and and certainly coming back to the way you were explaining the mentee is the one who's driving that relationship. For me, it was a bit weird to drive the relationship, because then I'm like, oh, but this person is in this job and they're like 2 steps higher than me in the hierarchy picture, and then I know what they're doing, and then I know the respect that everyone has for them, and so I felt like I was more going in there with like an empty notebook, being like, okay, you just tell me everything you know, and I'll just write it all down. That's kind of how I thought it would go. But certainly it was weird when I was kind of like, he was asking me like, oh, what do you think? And it did take a while for me to kind of make that switch in my mind to say, no, he's mentoring me, not me just kind of learning from him, which probably wouldn't have been there, to your point, if same person, same experience, but just wasn't in the same organization as I was, and I'm just kind of going to them with my questions. I think that's a key difference there. But carrying on that discussion, then what are some of the tips that you'd give mentees to approach this relationship? So obviously they're driving it, but what kind of things would you maybe say to them? This is how you can make this relationship, fruitful, effectively.
Yes, well, like I said, we've definitely set those expectations up at the front. We're trying, how often are you going to meet? What's the platform? How long is it going to last? And how is this? There's different kind of methodologies that you can follow. There's like a 6-step model and a 7-step model, which are kind of things that are resources that have been given to you as part of the IIBA one. And depending on whether you want to be, you've got a very specific goal, or whether you want to be more explorative, there'll be different things that work. So I think it's really important at first just setting the scene, and if you have got some really clear goals, like doing that from the start, or even maybe use your first few sessions with your mentor to maybe identify what those goals are. So go back to before when it's not around transitioning into a new role, it's more around skills or competencies. They might need some help first, just in like a skills audit or a competency assessment. Might be a good way, either prior to getting a mentor, or one of the first things you could do with your mentor is just making sure it's really clear, I think, what you want to get out of that relationship. And that way you can stay focused, and then your mentor can help you stay on track if, you start a conversation going and it's like, oh, I thought we weren't going to talk about this, and, you need to get to, almost recontracting to get back on track. So yeah, I think to be fruitful, make sure you've got some clear goals, or shout, make it clear that you need help with that if you don't know what your clear goals are, and just having expectations, I think, set from both sides. How long do you think this maybe is going to go on for? Which is another good thing about the IIBA scheme, is that it's a set period of 6 months, so you kind of know for the next 6 months we're going to do this. But often it can extend past that, informally outside of the scheme, or mentorships could sometimes go on for a number of years. But yeah, I think it's really good just set those goals, set those expectations, and then keep revisiting them to make sure that you're still both on track. I think would be really good.
Interesting. So what was coming back to, when you signed up to be a mentee, did you have a goal in mind? I'm curious because you have decades of experience, right? So did you have a thing that you thought, I still need help in this thing? What was your goal when you were applying?
Yeah, good question. Part of it was before I got into the consulting, and I've been in my organisation for 9 years, and I've started to get a bit itchy feet. I've been to the VA conference, and I've seen there was a much bigger VA world out there than my organisation, and I've been in the same different organisations but the same office for that 20 years, and I was just I think I just needed a bit of confidence to try and help me make the move that I think I'd already decided in my head. But a bit like with the personal trainer analogy, I think people, you already know what you want. You just sometimes need a little bit of help. So part of it was a bit of a crossroads with my career decision. And then I just wanted to, like I said, be a bit more... reach out and widen my network within the business analysis community as well. So I was going to ask for some help on, some pointers on how to do that, which has naturally actually already happened with that move. So despite not getting a formal mentor that way, I did write down some short-term and longer-term goals, which I've managed to achieve, which is good. And just about coming out of my comfort zone, I think, was another one that I just needed a bit of somebody else to give me a bit of a hand with, I think.
Interesting. Really, sounds like you mentored yourself there.
Yeah, almost, yeah. Yeah, I think before I'd already kind of wrote down, like I said before, I wrote down my own goals and what did I want out of it if I was going to attend as a mentee. So I think that helped, that I'd already given that some thought.
Yeah. So looking back over your career then, are there any particular moments that you can think of where mentoring has kind of really helped you?
Yeah, probably like we were saying before, my pivotal moments are probably in the pivotal moments in my own career. So going from into the world of business analysis, and then more recently into consulting and leaving the public sector after such a long time. So I think both of mine have been more around, well, up until about a year ago, been more around career. But then I think the last year has been more about personal growth and strengthening your own skills and your own self-esteem, I think, and self-confidence as well.
That is so true. No, that's incredible. And on your journey, what you've also done is you started the Cumbrian BA Network.
That's right,
which is an exciting initiative. Yeah, could you tell us a little bit more about that network and what your mission was with it, what your goals were with it, and what it is about?
Yeah, no, yes, I'm based in Cumbria, the very far north of England, which there's not a lot of things in terms of business analysis happening. Like I said before, when I went to the European Business Analysis Conference, and I always come away from events like that kind of really enthused, and in terms of meeting those people, I always come away with a really good vibe and think, oh, it's bigger world out there. Wouldn't it be good if there was something on our doorstep rather than having to travel however many 100 miles and hours on the train down to London. So after the conference last September, I just started doing a bit of research into what was around in Cumbria, which like I say, in terms of business analysis, there wasn't. So I just reached out to a few people that I knew that maybe were like part of BA teams in bigger organisations, and kind of put the feelers out for any interest in it. And there was quite a bit of interest. So I started that. The first session we had in January, initially doing it virtual because Cumbria is quite far spread and we've got a big bunch of lakes and mountains in the middle. It helps. Doesn't help us get around the county much very easily. Yeah. So we've initially started it as virtual, but we've actually got our first face-to-face event this month, which I'm looking forward to.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the vision for it really is just bringing people that either live or work in Cumbria in the world of business analysis together. So kind of collaborating, doing lessons learned, sharing information. We have put the intention out there, if people want mentored, offer that up as well. It's a bit of a platform as well if people want to, as a safe space, maybe to try out talking, public speaking for the first time or anything like that. Basically a place for opportunities and sharing, really. So you've had 4 meetings so far, which has been really good. Exciting.
Nice. Yeah. And if people would like to, I guess, listeners who are or happen to be in Cumbria and they want to join your Cumbria BA network, where do they go? How do they do it? And how do they find out more about this in-person event that you've got coming?
Yes, good question. So there is a LinkedIn group if you search for that on LinkedIn, or you can contact myself directly and I can send you across the details for that if you'd like to join. And I haven't advertised actually the in-person group yet, so I'll need to advertise on some event space on there as well. But yes, so
yeah. When is it?
It's on the 22nd.
Okay, so yeah, it's not far at all. So,
yeah, if anyone is listening,
that'll be good fun.
Get in touch.
Absolutely, absolutely, that'd be good fun. Yeah. Well, Sinead, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and sharing your experience and your journey in business analysis and mentoring, and also about the Cumbrian BA network that you founded, and really sharing the insights of the mentee-mentor relationship and kind of the tips around how to make that relationship a fruitful one. But also the reasons why, as business analysts, we do need mentoring. As I said before, I think most people consider mentoring when they've hit a roadblock in terms of their career progression, either becoming a business analyst from another field or leveling up to a more senior position, or maybe starting a new job after they've been in the same place for so long. But mentoring, as you've alluded to, is much more than kind of new job. It's also about new skills. It's also about professional development. It's also about networking. And it's also just about confidence. There are many BAs who are listening to this who you may be the only business analyst in your team. You may be the only business analyst on the project, and you would benefit from having a mentor that you can make sure that you touch base with every week or every month to just make sure that you're on track with what you're aiming to do, right? So I think that's really incredible. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Before we kind of close off the conversation, I'm assuming that people can reach out to you directly on LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Yes, please do.
Awesome. I'll put the link to your LinkedIn profile in the description. I'm curious to know so you obviously applied as a mentee, but you obviously were like, they were like, come on, Now, what are you doing? You're a mentor. You've got the experience. You've got the knowledge. So, there's people who need what you have. And now that you've kind of gone through that journey with the mentee, what has kind of surprised you the most about mentoring?
Yeah, no, good. I think it's that you also learn and develop yourself. Like I said, it's a two-way journey, and I think you've learned from other people. You learn from your mentee, and you develop your own skills, such as communication skills and active listening. So I think I've been surprised that you've learned on the way as well, but also I touched on before that you don't need to be an expert. So then people might be intimidated by it, thinking, "Oh, I've only got 3 years experience or whatever," or maybe not think that they would be suitable to be a mentor. I think you just need knowledge and experience, whatever that may be, and as long as you're open about what that is, and people can learn from you. And you don't need to have a label as being an expert. You just need to be able to impart your knowledge and experience in whatever field or skill it is that you want to share with people.
Love that. And the final question is, for those who are wanting to get mentorship in their career journeys, but they're on the fence, potentially. They're kind of thinking, I don't have time. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to be worth it, or whatever the case is. And maybe they're umming and ahhing about it. Do you have any final words for them?
Yeah, I think do maybe what I did, have a bit of self-reflection, write down some short-term goals and longer-term goals, and then just think, could I achieve that on my own, or actually if I had somebody else that was helping me, I probably could get there a lot sooner. So maybe give yourself some time scales that you want to achieve, and some goals, and that might help you think, actually I'll get there a lot quicker if I had somebody on my shoulder helping me.
Love that. Very clear and very practical. Well, Sinead, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I really have enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you for having me.